Welcome again to Leaders Uncut. This is Catherine Oakes, your host. And today it is my pleasure to welcome to the podcast John Cervenka, who is the founder and CEO of Starfish Social Media. How are you, John?
I'm fine. And Catherine, thank you so much for inviting me to be on today.
Oh, it's an honor to have you on. So, John, give us a bit of a background as to who you are, your experience, and then speak about Starfish Media, the specialty of the company, your goal, your vision, your mission. I know you have an outstanding mission here that I can't wait for you to share.
Well, thank you so much. First of all, I want to say I'm just one of the founders. There's actually 4 founders. We have one founder who's kind of a quiet founder. He started off the journey with us and is off doing other exciting things. And then the other 2 founders that are active are Steve Mott, Carrie Mott. They're down in Newport Beach, California. They're very involved every day. Steve is our COO, so I talk to him multiple times every day. And the quick backstory for myself and really how this company got launched was I come from a corporate background, and there were 2 big pieces of my journey professionally. When I got out of college, I quickly moved into the entertainment field as a writer and producer of television shows. So I was surrounded by really creative minds. It was all about developing quality content. I was fortunate enough to work with Sony, Fox Studios, ABC, and I was around these wonderful people. I loved the energy of that culture, and I made a decision just because of schedules. I have 4 children, my wife and I, we've been married a long time, we have 4 kids, and like maybe I would find something a little different because of just the demands on my time in that arena. So I accepted a position with a Wall Street firm doing institutional asset management. And so I got to work in this world around highly educated, very intelligent people managing billions of dollars. And our area of expertise was working with nonprofits. And that, I just loved it, Catherine. I loved being around that culture of giving back, doing good, being other-centered. And how Starfish was born was I was talking to a head coach of Cal Berkeley at the time, and he was just saying, I really wish that we had a better way of seeing the good side of these amazing athletes that we recruit. And I said, well, gosh, I can't believe you can't find that online, because the data shows that there is this good quality in all of us. And it's exciting when that comes out. Yeah. And he said, well, if you can tell me where I can see that, I would love to see it. And that weekend, driving home from Berkeley, I called a couple people I know that were very, very involved in social media. And I said, where is there a global social media platform that promotes good exclusively? And they both came back to me and said, John, there isn't one. And that hit me, Catherine, like a ton of bricks. Like this opportunity got thrown in my lap. One thing led to another. We put together a very big team of really bright men and women. We came together, we cast a vision, and we developed a game plan to build a global social media network called Starfish. And we've built it. We're available in 172 countries. One piece I'll share and then I'll pause is, why did we pick Starfish?
I was just going to ask you that, so thank you for addressing this.
There is a beautiful story, and people have heard it in different ways, but essentially a little boy is on the beach after a huge storm surge, and the skies are blue and the beach is filled with starfish, because after the storm, during the storm surge, they all got trapped up on the beach. And he's there picking them up one by one, taking them back and putting them in the ocean. And this man comes along and says, you know, what are you doing? He says, I am putting these starfish back in the ocean so that they can live. And the man said, well, I don't know if you're making much of a difference. There's thousands and thousands of them up here. And at that moment, the little boy looked at the starfish that he was holding in his hand. He walked over and he put it into the water, and he looked back at the man and he said, I made a difference for that one.
Yes, I love that story. It's such a beautiful...
It captures, I think, for all of us, Catherine, this spirit of the power of one, of doing good, because we can feel overwhelmed. We can feel like, what difference can I make? But when we help someone, an institution, an animal, the environment, we do something for education, it has this powerful ripple effect. It's a domino effect,
It
say.
is, and I love the way you describe the company. You say Starfish is for everyone and welcomes everyone to share their good, regardless of their economic situation, educational background, geographical location, or political beliefs. That's opening doors to everyone and bring back that collective awareness that I think is very important, that has had a tendency to collapse, especially with COVID. We've been so isolated. So I think it's a wonderful mission and positioning that you have here that's very important too.
Well, one of the models that we've used and studied is LinkedIn. They do a phenomenal job of promoting your professional profile. So right next to that side of us, our professional side, is this humanitarian side.
Mm-hmm.
And that doing good is not impacted by how much money you make, the school you went to, where you grew up, what your last name is.
Mm-hmm.
We all have this ability. And Eric Armstead, who's on our advisory board, who is a professional football player for the Jaguars, said it really well when we approached him. He said, everyone can have a profile on Starfish. Everyone is welcome to come on it because everyone has the ability to do good. And that has stuck in my mind.
Yep.
And so now people by the thousands are coming on our platform and doing their profile, and the marketplace now has a dedicated place where they can look and see, I want to hire this person or promote this person, or they want to get accepted to a school, or maybe you're just wanting to make them a new friendship with them. And you can see what they stand for by just looking at their Starfish profile.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have all the other features that a social media network has, where you can storytell, you can invite people, you can be part of groups. So yeah, thank you. There's a lot going on with us.
Yeah, so is your main differentiator that positioning of be the good, focus on goodness? Is that what you would say is the big unique selling proposition?
Yes, absolutely. So if you look at the social media landscape, it is filled with wonderful specialty platforms.
Mm-hmm.
And you've got that area on the social media playground, for example, that is people that are dating and they'd like to meet people that fall into certain categories.
Mm-hmm.
Or they want to buy and sell something, so maybe they go to eBay, and that's another part of it. Or they want to sell a car or whatever. But there's this really, really powerful place on that playground right in the middle, which is about where do you promote your good? Where are you inspired to see good stories? That is where we planted our flag. And little did we know how attractive that is to the marketplace. So we're now at that place where we built this massive platform in terms of technology, and now it's growing, and now we're watering it, and it's just sprouting more and more users. So that's where we are. It's all about illuminating and promoting your good to inspire others.
I love it. So of course, it's a great tool for nonprofit organizations. So how does that work typically if a nonprofit is interested in using Starfish? How does that work, and what are the benefits that they can take advantage of right away?
So that's a great question. So there's about 1.9 million nonprofits in the United States, and our experience working with them over the years, my experience with the decade and a half of helping manage their assets, was that they really wanted to be involved in social media, but they were trying to figure out an entry point because these other really large platforms, which are great, but they're generalists. So telling a compelling story about a nonprofit or doing good can sometimes get lost in all the noise of those big platforms. So we've already populated 1.9 million nonprofit profiles, and we are able to take the data that is in the public domain and populate their profile, each one of them, so that through our search system, somebody could jump on, they might have heard of a nonprofit, they can look it up right on our platform. Next thing you know, they're reading about it, they can follow it, they can even make a donation. You can make a donation to any one of these 1.9 million nonprofits in less than 20 seconds.
Oh, I love
And
that.
we're trying to teach people.
Yes.
There's a lot of criticism about maybe the Gen Zers or the Gen Xers, and they're so consumed with this or that. I would like to say, I don't find that to be the case. I find them to be incredibly generous, very socially conscious, very connected with wanting to give back. And now we've created a technology platform that lets them connect with each other, connect with nonprofits, and also it teaches them how easy it is to become a donor. Once you give $1, you're a philanthropist.
Yeah, I love it because it's a one central place where we can all go. And I know because I've worked with many nonprofits in the past, and their challenge is that they have to find the right way to connect with donors. It's critical for their survival. And there's no real platform that is offering what you have here. Plus, you have something that I find very interesting is your Starfish Lab, where you can, when people, it's a think tank, right? People can go and maybe help entrepreneurs that have ideas, guide them to develop their,
yes, exactly.
Their ideas,
share,
right?
Share ideas with each other. A lot of people don't know this, but I'll share this with you. We're about to launch something called Starfish Studio. What we discovered in our research is that nonprofits, they're doing great work and they're focused on their mission. So any one of us could think of the nonprofits that we're connected with, a school, an organization, a club, and they're all typically understaffed, overworked, and underfunded. True. So we've come up with a method called Starfish Studio where we can help them develop content, do ad buys on social media. We share all the analytics with them. It's kind of a turnkey operation so that they have their own dedicated marketing group, but they can offload it onto us and we can do it at a fraction of the cost that they would if they brought in professionals to do it, because we have those professionals. And I think our whole goal is just let's help them spread their brand message to a much wider audience so that they can attract those followers and potential donors that may have never heard of them before.
True, and what I think is very important, you mentioned you are a global firm. Globalization, I believe, is becoming more prevalent. Lots of companies are looking into developing their business on a global scale. We are becoming more and more of a global economy. So what you have here, I think, is very critical at this stage of our development. So how does that work? Do you have support in other languages? I mean, how do you approach that?
Well, it's funny, I'm smiling because you talk about that we live in this global society now. Here I am talking to somebody that was born in France, I believe.
Yes.
And you are conducting your very impressive business really on a global platform. We talked about that. I mean, I actually, when I first met you, I was so impressed by what you're doing. And through the use of technology, we're so close to everyone now. So what we've done is we created a very, very robust platform that we could be available to a global community. So now we're available in 172 countries, as I said. And as we continue to grow, we will start adding geographic specific features. So maybe in Germany, there'll just be a German Starfish that has all the features that the parent entity has, but it will enable those folks in Germany to communicate to each other in German, or will illuminate the great nonprofit or NGOs, non-governmental organizations that other countries, that's what they call their nonprofits. Each one, we will create a very robust offering where they can easily connect with the causes in their area that they want to support. And the beauty, I think, of doing good is universal. It knows no language specifically. Good speaks all languages.
Yes.
Good is multicultural. Good is global. And honestly, some of the things that we've discovered, I wish I could say we knew this going into it, but they've been just wonderful discoveries as we've grown.
Yes, and one thing I've noticed lately, because I have lots of contacts in Africa, I work with incredible people, geniuses, smart people, hard workers in a lot of countries in Africa. And as we know, some of those countries, they don't have a lot of money. Some of those entrepreneurs have incredible ideas. They are vision-oriented, they are goal-oriented, they're just go-getters. But a lot of them are looking for ways to expose their products, their services, to connect with others that can lead them to getting the assistance that they need to get to the next level. So I see a huge need in those areas of the world as well that are very isolated, are still very alone in their endeavors to become a stronger society, a business world that is now still at the very bottom of the scale.
You know, you bring up a really interesting point. Business has evolved now where you used to need so much capital now technology is capital intensive. So as a company structure, we've had to invest, millions of dollars in building this global platform.
Mm-hmm.
But I read an article in the Wall Street Journal years ago that they said, if you can develop a business that can live here, right on your phone.
Yeah.
And I forget, it might have been Warren Buffett, but he asked, what is the most valuable real estate in the world? And he asked this room, and some people said, oh, it's Hong Kong, or it's New York City, or it's fill in the blank. He said the most valuable real estate in the world is the front of your phone. If you have a company that can operate there, you're global. Yeah. So it ties into what you're saying. There are brilliant people in the four corners of the world that now have access to great ideas. They have access to capital. They have access to other thought leaders in their area because they have a phone. They have a smartphone. So we're really embracing that. I mean, here we are, different cities. We're having this conversation right now. 10 years ago, this wasn't even imaginable. So especially when you get into the good space, somebody can create a vision for making a difference in their village, let's say in Africa, or in a region or a country, and they can come onto our platform. And this comes out of my days in the entertainment field. Everything comes back to storytelling. Everything comes back to telling the story, whether it's a scripted story or whether it's an authentic story like we're talking about right now. And those authentic stories move people, and people could have never been to far regions of the world and say, guess what? I want to start supporting that cause.
Yes.
And when you start supporting it, it goes back to the story of the Starfish, where one person can have a huge difference on many, many people.
Exactly. And this is what I love. Plus, with artificial intelligence nowadays, it's so much easier to have translation systems that are going to translate everything you say in English to their own language, so that communication is going to become easier as we go because of those new technologies that facilitate that.
Well, this is, I'm not sharing anything with your listeners that they don't already know, but I got a note from a gentleman in South America, and it was so well written. It was so thoughtful. And I finally wrote him back and I said, boy, your English is tremendous. Yeah. Now, I could tell by the way he was expressing himself, there was a lot of depth to the story that he was telling me. So that could not have been run through AI. He and I were talking, but he said, John, I don't speak English, but I can communicate with you effortlessly because of this app I have. And I'm like, this is wonderful. Yes. This is so good. This is technology at its best. I just think we're at, when people will talk about, many years from now, the good old days, we are in the good old days right now of technology. It is moving so fast. People are very sensitive to how they can help each other. They're very aware of, how do I get to know? I can look somebody up online. Well, now they have a place to say, I can look up a person and see their profile on Starfish, and I really do know what matters to them. Is it animals? Is it the environment, education, healthcare, et cetera, et cetera? We love it. It keeps us going every day. It really inspires us as we go after our job every day.
It's a wonderful initiative. So tell us a little bit, and I know that we have a few more minutes, but I think it's an important question I'd like to ask you. I'm sure you went through a lot of roadblocks and challenges in your life. So if you had an advice, something inspiring to share with my audience about, what type of advice would you give to someone who is deciding to potentially launch a new venture or launch a new product, wants to become an entrepreneur, but thinks it's very difficult because of all the roadblocks and that the statistics are not very positive overall. But what would you say to someone like that, has the spirit of an entrepreneur, but does not really know where to start and why they should do it?
That is a really good question. I think there are several pieces to the answer to that. Number one is you have to protect your optimism. You have to guard it. And I mean truly guard it. Because that optimism and that determination makes all the difference in the world. You have to surround yourself by people that embrace that mindset. There's people like you, and speaking to you, you're a very positive person. Who we are around is infectious. They will either inspire us and encourage us, or they will draw us into discouragement, and we don't want that. So number one, guard your optimism. Number two is, as I said earlier, accept the fact that the only thing certain is uncertainty. So as you build your plan, give yourself permission to understand that the plan will adapt to how you move forward, and it's okay. Number 3, I have 2 more. Number 3 is focus on the gain, not the gap. And we talked about this the other day when we visited, just for a minute.
Yep.
The temptation in life is to look where you thought you would be at that moment in time, and then you get discouraged. I would submit, please focus on how far you've come, the steps that you've taken.
Right.
So look at the fact that you are making progress, because inevitably great things take more effort and time than we originally think. So when you dream big, know that it's going to be a big effort and embrace that. It's okay. It's okay. You know, we quickly look at magazines, whether it's Inc. magazine or, you know, Fortune 500 or whatever, and we read these stories of overnight sensations. Really, when you peel back the layers of those stories, the person will say, yeah, I'm an overnight sensation that took me 20 years to experience it.
Yes, so true.
So it's okay.
Yeah.
Give yourself permission.
Yeah.
Give yourself permission to embrace the journey, because it will take a little longer than you think. But again, big ideas, big goals, take big commitments, and it's exciting. It really is. It's how you look at it. So it's mindset. So I gave you a long answer, but I think it's a great question.
That's very important. And I always think, see, I have my bad days where I doubt, where my self-confidence is not very high. But when I think of people that, you know, the big leaders out there that just went for it and we didn't think about it twice, or we didn't listen to others. Elon Musk comes to mind, of course. Elon Musk is a great example, but there are so many others. But I think what's also is very dangerous is to listen too much to naysayers, listen too much to what's around you, because when you're focus on your goal. And this is what I have learned with age. This is where, you know, age helps a little, is I don't listen to what people say anymore. I hear it, I may remember it, but I don't change my path a lot because of what they say, because a lot of them don't understand where I am at, or they don't understand my vision. And it's easy to criticize someone. So that's another thing I would say to pay attention to. You know, the noise around you is sometimes very destructive. What do you think about that?
I think you said it very, very well. And I think when you're an entrepreneur, you have to embrace the fact that you think a little differently than other people. And a lot of people will look at an entrepreneur and it scares them, because the fearless nature of an entrepreneur can be very intimidating to non-entrepreneurs. So what do we do when we're feeling a little insecure? We try to, there's that saying, like, misery enjoys company. If you're not a risk taker, and as an entrepreneur, you have to be a risk taker because you're creating something that never existed. It did not exist until you came along in the way that you're developing it. So people will sometimes plant seeds of doubt in your mind because they really want to pull you back to where they are. They don't mean it in a negative way. Yeah. Whenever we hear anything negative from somebody, it usually has more to do with who they are than what we did.
Yes.
You know, that's typically what the case is. So I'm with you. You really have to be careful, because people will try to pull you back because they don't want to get out of their safety, zone. They want to stay in the safe place. And as I've been told, great coaches can coach anything to anybody, but they cannot coach determination. So if you're a determined person, goes kind of back to guarding your optimism, that's where great things can happen. But it doesn't happen every day, but you're further along at the end of the day than you were at the beginning of the day, even though it may not feel that way. Just believe in that.
Well, this is why it's important to look at what you've done and not forget that you have done some work and it has value. And also it's interesting because that's just, I think it was a couple of weeks ago, I saw that statistics. I think it's 95% of people give up just maybe a couple of months before they were ready to really make it big, right? So it's never giving up. It's always believing in it. And of course, that's never giving up. There are exceptions. But I think that mindset of never give up is important to keep inside of you at all times, because it does make a difference.
Yeah, I think, what you're talking about, I call it being able to see around the corner. We don't have that ability. We can't see around a corner until we get there.
Right.
And if we could walk up and see around the corner and say, success is going to arrive at this date, we would just be fine. oh, I'm just working towards this. But we never see it because we never can get to that corner until it happens. So I think your words are very, very powerful about persevering. They even did a quick study. The Stanford Medical School did a study where they took a mouse and they put it in a water. They weren't going to let it drown, but they wanted to see how long it would swim before it gave up. So it swam for a very short period of time, and then you could tell it had just given up. They took it out of the water. It was fine.
Right.
A little bit later, they put it back in. Now it knew that it wasn't going to drown. It would be taken out. It swam for twice as long and was actively swimming, and they took it out, dried it off. It was fine. The point is, when we feel inside there's a certainty that things will work out, we persevere and we stay with it. Now, it may not look like we originally thought. The pain of not trying is much more severe than the pain of regret of not trying.
So agree with that. So anyway, it was wonderful. So John, if someone is interested in learning more about Starfish, speaking with you, what's the best way to get hold of you?
So if you would like to download our app and be part of this growing, massive Starfish community, you can go to the App Store, type in Starfish and good, and it'll take you right to our app. You can download it. It's available on Android or iPhone. Or if you go to a web-based, you go to Starfish app, all one word, the word Starfish, and then app.com, starfishapp.com. You can read about us. You can create an account. You can start sharing stories of good. And so it's mobile and web-based. And we would welcome everyone to be a part of it. And we're just really excited with our growth. We're so happy that so many people are finding us.
Yes, no, again, congratulations. It's an incredible initiative, and I'm sure you're going to do extremely well. There's no doubt about this.
Well, thank you, and congratulations on the success of your program. It's really inspiring, and I think you draw out the best in all of us when you have the kind of conversations that you have, because you've created this culture where it's safe to build and create, and I think we all need that. I think it's
exactly
wonderful.
That's so very true. Thank you. Great words to end this conversation. Thank you again for your time, John. Wonderful conversation. Everyone else, thank you for listening. Share John's story here. It's important to help each other out. Talk about Starfish. It's an incredible initiative that people need to be aware of. And we will see you next time.